very, very specific document. Many of us here find those things they were just have zero or this right, but well, I'll check stuff off a little bit. Thanks for coming. I think it's pretty hard to hear the thing is also for I just want to start by saying, please feel free to ask when you look at I stuff and clarify anything for like they also like always say that well in hours we're going to do it like some of the technicalities both measures that but only today for all after the follow-up or oftentimes when you think about academic advocacy, we're not always looking at the same time, right? It's a lot of time and I think that's the case. It's actually to look at who is more and really understand how to things and whether we're moving to go we want to like we want to understand because looking at now seriously. So we're going to talk 4 different ways today on how to look at that. Well, and some of the different I'm going to start out with bringing up the World Book Report. World Book Report was that we have the opportunity for the state framework around strategic plan and all have efforts aligned and work towards common goals. And the common goals of the World Book Report are right up here having all right, all kindergarten, having all third graders reaching grade level, third grade, closing fusion house and really the partnership across all of our work in the state around education, having all graduate high school and then having all career readiness as well. And when we think about World Book Report, we're really looking at achieving gaps as its own goal. We're also looking at achieving gaps throughout each of these 5 goals as well. Right? So we're looking at kindergarten readiness, but we really want to look at how students in different groups are whether there's different different groups are prepared for kindergarten. When we're looking at third grade reading, we really want to look at what gaps do we have in third grade reading, and are we also on the path to graduation and ready for college and workforce. And so while achieving that, it's important to know while it's only is also covered throughout each goal. So we'll dive a little bit into the for World Report, the 5 areas. I want to know if available in planning around World Book Report. Stakeholders, their results, performance, their development as well. That's okay. Who supports the global communication? So while we have some levels that we hospital, I think it's important to know that there's also other health organizations. So there's the data that we have available in the state, starting with figure readiness. We don't have one country all in the state, so So they're certainly available. We know that because that's valid and reliable to a lot of those. So right now, training on assessments and incorporating community. The assessments that we have available are online learning standards as well. And so I just want you to know that districts are using some of these tools starting, but we don't have one that we're able to provide. So they on our website around kindergarten for all. We've done some sampling and things, and so that's kind of an idea, but really not one data point that's all. But then for third grade reading, we're looking at third grade reading proficiency rates, and kind of that is, but third grade reading proficiency rates by a student group, showing progress to a 2017 gap closure goal. And we have a goal of the gap by 50%, and so what we've done is provide information specific to the third grade reading goal in this report on how they're doing relative to the gap closure goal. We provide level or the chart LGA level, but we can also do this. Don't have it done on that. Karen's actually going to talk a little bit more about the 2017 goal and schools are set their own goals, but this fall is like that's because and do this what we've really done here from a data standpoint is utilize the that we use historically under progress YP, in which that this is a small range meeting, but there's some different similarities here that I'll dive into in a minute. College for readiness is the next level of report. We're looking at grade 8 math proficiency by students, again, relative to that 2017 gap closure goal. And, when I talk about this, there's a lot of different local measures, data points, in addition, well, college for readiness is one of we don't have one assessment like in the high school that's required or all whether it's like here, but that is not for all students moving forward. In 2016 it was. But what we want to do is make sure that our data points that we're providing to districts is all. I think it's kind of approximately 70% or so state on TV, but some districts may use it, measure tracking the cost through some we're looking at the secondary after the fact, whether secondary. We use 8th grade math again in fall. We know that our 8th grade math today is we also know that 8th grade math could be one of the basic things and so 8th grade math will be provided and then last is graduation rate. 5 groups have a goal 90% graduation rate by 2020 with no students below 85%. So we call every they are relative to that 90% goal by 2020. Again, with no below the 85%. I'll dive a little bit more. These are ones are on our website. So in this small beautiful file. We release them by recent third time profile. for districts across the state, and we just looked at for White Pine as well to provide this actual files thereafter. So there's 5 tabs to file. One area of recorded, the first one being third grade reading, and when we're looking at third grade reading, we're looking at 5 student groups. So there's 9 possible student groups. We report data groups that we can students in school. If we go below second, we found viable information. So every student group that we we're providing them with their 2013 district baseline. This is how the district actually performed in third grade reading by student group in 2013. And 2013 is the baseline because that was the first year of our MSA. So we're looking at where the district started. Then we're looking at what the long-term goal is. That's this column right here, where we're looking at the 2017 achievement gap goal. And this goal is set based on getting halfway to 100% by the year 2017. So if let's take the top for all students, if your baseline is 53, halfway to 100% is 70. So that provides you your long-term goal. Yeah. Good question. Good question. So that goal was 15%. Again, it's about common goals. Not one other. So if a group, if I'm understanding your question correctly, so if a group were to start after, right, or if they didn't have enough English learners, right, 2013, we weren't able to set a 2017 goal for that group, and we actually didn't provide them then the goal. What we can provide them with is where they are in 2017. Obviously, if they had a student, I think that would be a situation where we want to work with the district on the goal setting, but from a statewide level, we thought it was fair into those that actually had a start point where we calculate a common ending point. The district would want to include their enrollment. I don't know under the authorized there's no I wondering about that but I don't if we were to have say for example we want to break if Minnesota is more vaccinated under question group, certainly we would go back over time. And we've done that with four like when they we were able to go back with all the next stuff over and I believe it is not good even very and English learner to be this year right? Special education. So these are kind of split in a way. So just because you're doing that, really need to go back to this. We have to make something. Okay, so I think you know, so we're providing where you started in 2013, where you're headed, where your end goal is, and then where you are. Right? And so districts can assess whether they think they're making active progress, or if they need to ramp things up and want move one group faster, or really hone in on particular student population. So this also, I didn't know, this is looking at percent of students that are proficient. So it's the percent of students that are or but we'll get a later slide. We do include pressure. Creating math is almost the exact same process. And it's in the right measure in the world of report. And when we're looking at grade 8 math, we're looking again at students at least 10 students with at least 10 students. We're looking at the baseline, and for math, that's 2011. As the starting point, as the first year that we had our NCAA 3. And so that's our starting point. This is the district's performance in 2011. This is our goal for 2017. It's halfway to 1%. And then here's where the district is. The next goal is exposure. I mentioned earlier that this is really third off of the flow line and bringing together that state and third off of federal responsibility. But this is at the district level, the district level. This is looking at all grades, and this is looking at both math and reading. And we're looking back to improve a district podcast for this one. It's different because it's a part of our the south side is actually more top for accountability than it's for public. And that's why here and but this is really focused on having enough to ensure that so again, 20 students, 5 student groups, reading and math. Here we're actually looking at district performance, or the proficiency index. That's the actual district's performance in 2015 data point. And when we look at proficiency index, and I'm not sure if you can see it on the bottom, but the calculation really good. You get students that are moving towards meeting standards, one goal, and you get students that are partially meeting standards on the second one, half point. And what we do is we add all 1 point and all half point, and we divide by the number of students that were enrolled at the full academic. And so in the data here, we're only including students that were instructional schools for the full academic year. All the way to they're removed. For some, yeah, but not. I don't see that many really. Actually, totally different. But I really want to see like it would be. So in Minnesota, we have 4 level on our application. It's not meeting standards. First, meeting standards, and through our whole standard setting process, cut scores, the student score tells us whether they fit one of those 4 topics. So it's not meeting standards, partially scores. That's done to our full assessment. Yes, or you can consult. Yes. So schools and districts get benchmark report. So it helps track for analysis that was that. But sir, I can install our standard setting process. So therefore, students that for 340 are in the design category. Because for 4150 are in the partially used category. 350 or 3 maybe. I don't know. Yeah, this is the one that she did. Right. So all of the four grade books. Now the for the 40 softball grade is the softball grade. So those right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think we have to how but anything above a 350 is that. Yeah. It is passing forward under FFA. Things also as a federal law. Certainly that predator that are partially considered, that is certainly that. But the hits behind that really I don't know how and we that place. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, okay, so we have our performance in 2015 district. This is our target. And these targets are actually set based on baseline targets. Federal accountability plan. We have baseline targets set at the state for everything. And based on the portion raised these targets are customized set for the district. And so on an annual basis, we're looking at whether a efficiency index rate exceeds the established annual target. And we can see the difference, right? That's above the target or below the target by how much. And then what this does is quantify by the number. So it tells you, bigger schools, if a big district is off by 10 points, that could represent 12 kids. If a smaller district is off by 10 points, that represents 12, right? And so this provides you the exact number of students. Had they been proficient in 2015? So if this district had a 112 score, 3 reduced by 1 student proficient in reading, they would have met the target. Reading and yeah. So this goes back from the historic. I think that we would like to actually do the extra well. But what I think is that we're your head at this point with in this rate. So while we start with it here, this also valid. What we really want to do is there are special settings, very special for program area. But I think it's valid goals, and I actually think that personally it's motivating and not educators doing it about first educators. That would be right enough that they're not quite there. But I think that motivation is okay, and then not actually have it. So I like other questions. I think yeah. So I think what this does is quantify grades by number of students. You can pull up, of course, different students to know whether they're not meeting standards or partial. You can know both number of students, kind of results might expect. I think the message would turn out to see that is that we're looking for full school improvement, and these targets go up at pretty ambitious numbers rates. And so focusing just on the level is not going to like this order is perfect. It's not going to want to um, so I think additionally there's no guarantee that you're considered like this is a look in time and this is actually a so if you're not really in your people and focusing on that, just focusing on the so you're learning that. You've seen that happen. So I think that's the thing that yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are very like the right for well and schools that are identifying those schools, all those steps level, those are schools that are being tracked in closing gaps. Measures, like elementary schools that are identified, you have there, I think there's a lot of specs for community and we already that was what that would look like. That also so those schools and them visual yeah, so way so that are being usable time and so that they I think it's really ensuring those like I said, as much yeah, they're on our website, and I'm going to give you a detail about the parents and you have yeah, that could be its own. That could be its own. Yeah, we can have like all of that stuff. Lastly, before I hand it off to Sarah, is graduation, right? Thinking about that 90% goal by the year 2020 with no below 85%. And so we're providing for all your student groups. That you talk about for the release. We're providing them with their 4-year graduation rate. We also actually provided a 5-year and 6-year graduation, but really thinking about that 4-year on-time graduation rate being so that's their count, and then looking at their 4-year percent. Our most recent graduation rate is actually 2014 graduation rate. We always have that lag, because 1-year lag is so 2015 rates will be really and so, and the reason for that is that fulfill graduation requirements and deliver so we're looking at their 4-year percent, and then we're looking at the increase needed to get to 90%. Here and in the data profile, it shows increase needed to reach 90%. Really, for student groups, for every group that is not in the all students, so Asian, Hispanic, Black, White, LAP, special ed, free and reduced, really the goal for those student groups is 85%, and that includes all of the 8 groups, every group except for all. So the goal is 90% overall, with no student group below 85. So I just wanted to verify that. Quickly, we can go over so and what we're actually doing and how many and so these are we actually are indicated so it's just so we can over so our practice you are enrolled in thank you for following what did I say? Start or really good question. So we have these with like 5 points down like 4 3 or something. So even with system so critical. I think that's the that our heart historically really has to do with financial housing or responsibility. And so what we've really done is work with every volunteer get and they have effort now actually find open and if they haven't practice, they can actually hold them on their graduation. We're finding that some they're not sometimes so I think the majority of my notes are so they will just take all that. Private schools, so I think it's really interesting in which the students not their mark numbers not be picked up by the public. students, because they're long and they're 20 years old. So a lot of people go that way. I don't for that video. Only so that they are. I'm going to go through the next few slides talking about a couple of other ways to look at the achievement gap in Minnesota. I think Stephanie did a great job setting you up to the top like 400 by 2017 target that we have. That is, I think, kind of the heart of how we are doing the achievement gap. But there's still a lot of flexibility around that and how schools and districts choose to define that. Stephanie is part of the conversation. So schools and districts for a lot of different programs need to be applied for funding a lot of times. I know that's one of the examples that was brought up earlier. The school wants to funds, so a very long expensive plan that includes school that includes summary assessment. You have to pick your data, set some goals, how you're going to use this money, and then how to something that we have to go out. And what we really strive for is a very common kind of goal-setting way of looking at your data so that we get commonality across. And so this goal-setting way is one way that we've done that. This is just a math example for a school or a district. So this is looking at, this is from there's a screenshot from a report that we provide for schools and districts. On our data center, and so you can see this is our looking at math for our free and reduced lunch and then non-free and reduced lunch population from 2011 to 2015. And I filtered for October 1. That's what we always tell districts to do whenever they get data, because it's more of an apples-to-apples comparison than students that were at the school in the fall and then those that have to spring, right? So the full dose of their curriculum and then here. And so you can see, basically, I just put in the formula that we're just taking where they were in the base year, 2011 for math, tracking it from 100, dividing it by 2, and then adding it back to the 2011 percentage. And then you can see, so we're going to go off 2017, as this line continued, this is where their target would be. So for our non-free and reduced, we get 89.25, and for our free and reduced, we get 74.25. And essentially what we're doing is we're putting the gap in half by 2017 from where they started in 2011. But we're doing it by increasing proficiency not only for our free and reduced lunch population, but also for our non-free and reduced lunch population. What we see a lot of times for our schools and districts is so they close the gap, and the lines maybe have gotten closer together. I think 2013 is a good example of that. So you can see the lines got closer together, but what happened? Proficiency went down. It went down for both groups and much more pronounced for our non-free. That's not what we want. What we want to see is both groups increasing their proficiency, but the historically underperforming group, whoever that happens to be, is increasing their proficiency rate. So that's kind of how we want to define it. A lot of times, what we'll see is if they have to close a gap, which is true, but they've done it set. So this is kind of the framework that we use moving forward. Now, maybe you're asking, well, okay, well, that's great, but what if you're in a school where 99% that kind of limits your ability to have 2 lines left, correct, right? And I think when we have that situation, there's a couple different possibilities, and this is kind of where our flexibility comes in, in schools and districts, what they want to do at the local level, what makes more sense to them. So one option, if it's a school, they could look at the free and reduced population at the district level, see how they're doing to make that comparison, right? That's one way to find gap. So state level, which helps with our about that in a little bit.
So that you can compare across different jurisdictions, right? Different geographies. Another way is to just simply use what Stephanie was talking about, use this formula and just do your own two halfway to 1 for your group, right? So you can just make that calculation, so no matter what group, you're still increasing your productivity, you're still close gap, right? The amount of gap or countries have to close. So we try to define the gap for the frontward, backwards, and sideways for people. This is the kind of gap to do it, like close gap. Other questions about? I think it walks people through this in kind of a transparent way to help them get there. So that's why we've kind of drawn it out this way. And the reason we use, these are absolute. The reason we use this is very transparent for schools and districts. I think Stephanie was talking about this, like talking about that index rate to get people, especially if this is a plan that they have to present to their public or to their parents. This gives them sort of almost that elevator speech. What's your goal? What's your school about? Where are you trying to go? Are you trying to move your students? And we can talk about this very soon. So here we start here in 2011. This is where we're trying to go. And we encourage schools actually to start with their all students and do that goal. What's your goal? All before you run and try to get down and repeat the other like that. And look at the gap. We start kind of a very high and then get down. We actually say look at your enrollment data first for within a school or district, and if you don't have at least 10% represented in your total enrollment, you might not have enough students to call at a gap. Start breaking that outside. You only have 2 or 3 students, so people to start breaking gap, smart goals, and levels. So really, I would. No, it is difficult, and schools do tend to, actually, I think about like bouncing and what we see. But there are some caveats, and I don't want to dig too far into the weeds. 2012 can be a full year for a lot of schools, so sometimes that'll be bigger than others for math. Because we're allowed. So sometimes, and this one actually doesn't look that bad, but sometimes that can be a big blip. The reason why I picked it was the difference. So they started at 30% in 2011, and they're down to 6.2. This just looks like a okay. There's no area. No, all the same path since 2011. It is, and people will say that. So that if you see a lot of outpatient in your data, another thing you can do a next step in that is then look at what you can do. We have a tool that allows you to apply grades. How do you can start to look at it's possible, but I always want to encourage people to get to the system level. So if there is a grade, you might have a good group in 1 year or not so great group. At a systems level, we should be providing support that any group, no matter who they are, they walk in the door, that they can call to supervision, right? So if you know that there's a group that's coming down that's going to struggle, what are the supports and resources that school needs to put in place so that so if we're looking at it at a systems level, we do want to look at it. Because then if you know how to bouncing, that's a problem. There's some inconsistency in how we're meeting up as they work. Yeah. and I cut off this particular graphic, but the numbers are right almost here. So you could see, and I told one whether it was actual numbers, but you can see the numbers. So the school would be able to see the numbers. And that's what I'm using the report for students. They have to tested and proficiency not but make it as big as possible. But we do have it, and this is an important caveat. Especially if you're looking at student groups, like I said, if they're not more than 10% or more of your student population, then you might want to. And then I did want to talk a little bit about the student groups that we use typically in the goal setting process. So, and this is what we use in our federal accountability as well for our MMR. So this is looking at our free and reduced, the non-free and reduced, special ed and the non-special ed, kind of get the gist there. And then for our racial and ethnic groups, the comparison student group that we've historically used is the white student group with American Indian, Asian, Hispanic, Black students. However, again, there's a lot of flexibility for schools and districts. That might not make sense to them, so they might want to use, again, their own student group to 100%, or maybe they've looked at their data and the biggest gap is between their Asian and Hispanic students. And so they really want to work on that gap, and that's the gap that's supported. So this kind of to give them an example that it's not starting, but by no means starting an end. Also, it depends on what is the makeup of their school. So this is what we use, like I said, at the state level. So same back for federal accountability purposes, but by no means the only way to do it. I think sometimes people get frustrated when you do that, and so it's really not try to work with districts to provide flexibility. So now I'm going to jump into growth. Start talking a little bit about growth. We don't have time left. It's really fast. I apologize. So in our MMR grading, our multiple measure grading, that is a grading that all schools receive in the state. It has different components that we were talking about. The rate, that's one domain of our MMR. The achievement gap reduction is another domain in our MMR system, and I just wanted to talk through what that was, what it entails, because it's another way we look at a gap. We give schools a gap reduction score is what it's called, and so for elementary schools, it's 1/3 of their MMR, or middle schools, and then for high schools, it's have a graduation rate for high school. So the AGR uses both these scores. So we're not using scores to measure the gap between the student group and the state. A little later on. The scores, growth scores, are based on the last assessment results of the students, and the student score compared to their expected. So it's how we thought the students could do in that next year or year based on how it was prior year. Yes, and I have a link for that in one of these slides coming up. So I will tell you how you can get to that. Yes, it's on the next slide. So the achievement gap reduction domain is based on a transformation of the average growth scores in math. So students get a score of their math score. The school has to have at least 20 students with a growth score of math or reading to receive points in the AGR domain, and those are the students that are listed. The AGR is really trying to focus on those student groups that historically have been underperforming in the state. And the AGR is based on, like I said, the growth of these scores. So it's based on how students with similar scores previous year are expected to perform. And this is where you can find an explanation of those scores. If you go to our homepage, you will students for school support, and then go to ESEA. That page. There's that page, and then there's a separate MMR page. There's videos and PowerPoints and all kinds of. So yeah, Let me give you an example. So here we have the hypothetical second year course position for students with a 339. So I have a 3, whatever the score is in front, that first number corresponds to the grade. So a 339 means I've got a third grade. The score was a 39. It's going to take all other third graders who got that exact same score. It's going to see how they did in the second year. So it looks like that group, the 339ers, averaged the score of a 440 in fourth grade. So then it's going to see, I'll look back out, each individual student. Okay, average is a 440. That was the expectation. Right? That's expected them to get based on their proof. Did they beat that? They get a 440, or did they beat it, or did they fall? So where on the system did they fall? You can see the growth equal to speed. So the mean, if they hit it right on the mark, anything above that would be a positive score. So exceeded was expected. They fell through. If they got anything that was negative, that means they fell short. Okay. So then all those student scores, all those student scores that are held up after the school. $440 is best. Yeah, so on an annual basis, for the first 2 years, so I think so the first 2 years when the fund is actually average in that given year. So 440 is that year average, right? And we're going to short. The second year, maybe the average for the first that is 431, and that is target that year. 441. And we do that for 3 years. After 3 years, then those targets are established. So for 3 years, we actually have approximately above and approximately below. But after 3 years, we could have all two optical scores because those targets are set. So the two scores are and the reading, so we set so we're good. Well, I mean, I think so. However, we want everyone to stay standard, right? So I think if a certain student who isn't meeting that goal of expectation, that would be something that school is assessment. And that's something that they should look into. And then as far as being able to measure the difference of out, that's kind of the next step of the production domain. So then what we do once all those have their growth score, and I forgot to mention this, so the growth domain goes just roll up to that. That's the third domain of the SR. So then we can break it back out again for the production domain, where we put then based on the group, we get that group of growth score. So we can look specifically at the growth scores for those. And we create a gap score by comparing them to statewide columns. So, for example, on the first bullet, we're comparing the school's American Indian growth with the statewide point. Do that, just look at all schools. The school might not have a group listed, but for the groups where they do have a 20%, they'll have a comparison. And so then from this, they'll get a report that looks like this, so they can see. You can see this is free and reduced price pledge. So we have the non-free and reduced price pledge for reading at the state, and then at the school. And you can see their row scores, and then for math, their row scores, and then we just subtract those to get their APR score. And so a negative achievement gap reduction score indicates that we're slowing right? Negative goes down, and a positive achievement gap reduction score means that the gap is getting bigger. You can see at the bottom here, we have two positive scores. So, in this particular example, there's a Y message. So they can see not only their own student group by student group for their school for math and reading, they can also see what the state will like. That kind of yeah. You're thinking you'd be creating a oh, sorry. But are there other questions about this? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. We're up to 25 points. So there's a calculation that's done to assign that number of points. Then those points are summed across all the domains, and then they are based on where they fall out. Yeah, this is like I said in a couple slides before. This is just one domain combination. Okay, I'm going to go to the last slide. This is where you can find us if you have other questions later on. Any technical questions, you can go to the analytics mailbox. Questions about World Best Workforce, they have their own mailbox right there. And then anything about federal accountability, you can email that in. Yeah. Yeah, that could be